Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. It's great pleasure to be among brothers and sisters in Sweden, and I'm very sorry that I cannot speak Swedish, so I have to speak in English, but I'm sure you all know English better than I do. And therefore, inshallah, I will try to, in the allotted time, discuss certain aspects of Karbala that would teach us lessons for our today's life, today's decision making, and things like that. Karbala was a movement which was very well calculated by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It was not just a sort of urge which happened by coming of Yazid. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, during the whole 10 years after Imam Hassan alayhi salam, when Muawiyah was still alive, despite the attitude of Muawiyah towards the treaty, peace treaty that he had with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, and despite the violation of all the articles of that treaty, Imam Hussein did not make any move and did not try to somehow mobilize people against Muawiyah, because he knew that it was not useful. Muawiyah claimed that he was one of the companions of the Prophet, and therefore to mobilize people against one of the companions of the Prophet was not a wise thing to do. And also, the way Muawiyah had treated many people and many companions of the Prophet at his time would have given them a sort of excuse not to help anyone who wanted to make any move against Muawiyah. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam was waiting for the right time and for a good reason and justification to make his move. And Yazid gave him that justification. Actually, Muawiyah gave him that justification by appointing Yazid as his successor. One of the articles of the treaty was that Muawiyah should not appoint anyone as caliph after him. The peace treaty between Imam Hassan and Muawiyah. Muawiyah should not appoint anyone after himself as the caliph, and people should choose. Well, Muawiyah, of course, violated that as well. However, it was not because of Yazid that Imam Hussein made his move. Yazid was less significant than that. It was because there was something going wrong in the ummah of Rasulullah. The whole ummah had become so much inclined towards worldly matters. The spirit of Islam, the soul of religion and faith had declined, and the whole faith was emptied and evacuated from that spirit which the Quran and the Prophet, peace be upon him, wanted to teach his followers. Prophet wanted to teach his followers. So when Imam Hussein alayhi salam says that I have moved إنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي, I have come out to make reform in the ummah of my grandfather, it means that he saw something was going wrong. Now, what was it which was going wrong? Islam was at the peak of its power. Muslim army was advancing from all directions. More and more territory was coming to Muslims. The scholarly endeavor of Muslims were growing. And we had many fuqaha, many muhaddithin, many reciters of the Quran, developing in different cities, different areas. What was it which was wrong? It was not just because Yazid wanted to become a ruler. And in my opinion, it was not just because of the bay'ah, although bay'ah and pledge was very important, that if Imam Hussein had given pledge to Yazid, he would have actually condoned and endorsed whatever was happening. But it was deeper than that. The companions of the Prophet, the Tabi'un, the successors, they were understanding and interpreting the Quran in the wrong way. They were amassing wealth and all those things which were happening. However, to make his move, Imam Hussein very cleverly had certain things in mind. And that's what I want to talk tonight about. That what is it that we can learn from Imam Hussein and his movement? The first thing that I want to mention here is the inclusivism of Imam Hussein and absolute avoidance from sectarian inclination or creating any sort of idea in the mind of the people that the movement is because of some sectarian agenda. And this is what we can see in the whole movement. Never Imam Hussein talked about his imamah. Never Imam Hussein talked about his Shia. He was actually trying to attract support from all quarters of the Ummah. Even those who were inclined towards his enemies and towards Imam's enemies, he was trying to bring them in. And he did it very successfully. So in the whole event of Karbala, you cannot see any move. Some of the Western scholars write that it was a fight between Shia and Sunni, and Shiism actually grew after Karbala. It's wrong. Because there was no single allusion from Imam Hussein about Shia, about his imamah, about the imamah of his father. Never. He never talked about it. It was all about the ummah is going in wrong direction. The Quran is being neglected. My grandfather Rasulullah did not want these things to happen. Even certain people who, as I said, inclined, like Zuhair ibn Aqin. Zuhair ibn Aqin was an Uthmani man. He didn't have his affiliation with Ali, and certainly not believing in Imamah of Imam Ali or anything like that. But he attracted them as well. Not only that, he attracted some non-Muslims, as we have it in narrations that Wahab was a Christian man who joined in. Why a Christian man should join a fight between two Muslim groups? It's none of their business. There's nothing which would interest them in that sort of conflict and in that sort of infighting between two Muslim groups. It seems that Imam Hussein talked in a way that it moved the conscience of people. That everyone who was living in his time in the Muslim territory thought that this is something which concerns them as well. So in many occasions, he did not even invoke the religious feeling of people. Of course, in many cases he did. But in some cases, he drew on the conscience of people. So this inclusivism is very important. And we see, for example, like Imam Ali, in Siffin, Imam Ali was fighting against Muawiyah. 18,000 companions of the Prophet were in his army. It's very interesting. They say that Shias are against the Sahaba of the Prophet and companions of the Prophet, peace be on him. We know the service that companions of the Prophet did to Islam. It was because of them that Islam spread, because of them that Quran was learned, because of them that Quran was compiled. Yes, of course, we have criticism against certain Sahaba, certain companions of the Prophet, but that doesn't mean that we do not respect the companions of the Prophet, peace be on them. And one of the interesting evidence for that is that in the fight between Muawiyah and Imam Ali alayhi salam, there were only 4 or 5 companions. One of them was Muawiyah, the one other Amr ibn al-As, and 2 others who were rejected by the Prophet. They were in the army of Muawiyah. In the army of Imam Ali, there were 18,000 companions of the Prophet present, and several thousands of them were killed by Muawiyah actually. So this idea that Shias are against companions of the Prophet is not correct. And in the heat of the battle, when the battle was going to start in the morning, when Imam Hussein actually spoke for the army of the enemy, the contending army, he mentioned the names of the companions of the Prophet in his own support. He said that, do you not know that the Prophet said about me and my brother that Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein are the masters of the youth of paradise, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein, Sayyida Shawab Ahl al-Jannah. Did you not know that Prophet said this? And I am not lying in this respect. And as soon as I realized that Allah doesn't like lying, I never have lied. But if you do not believe me, go and ask the companions of the Prophet who are alive. Go and ask Zayd ibn Arqam, Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, Sahal ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi. He mentioned many companions of the Prophet. Go and ask them about me and my brother. So he's invoking the focus of respect of the hearts with regards to companions of the Prophet. So we see that he was very inclusive. As I said, no one can say, people say that after Hussein alayhi salam things became sectarian, but no one in history can ever say that the move of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was sectarian, that he was doing it for Imama or for Shia or anything like that. It's very important. And now, in our time, if we really want to make a significant and meaningful move for Islam, it has to be inclusive. It cannot be sectarian. Sectarianism always fails. It is important that in our talks, in our behavior, in our endeavors and efforts to advance a little bit with regards to Islam, we bring everyone in. Because if we don't do that, it becomes something sectarian. Even this walk of Arba'in, I think is very important. That it is, of course, a magnificent manifestation of love for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. A magnificent manifestation of devotion. And a magnificent event for the Shia. However, we have to try to make it inclusive. We have to behave in a way, talk in a way that people from other Muslim groups also join in. Inshallah, this will happen in future. Now we see that some Christians, some Zoroastrians are coming, some Sunnis are coming as well. But this should be somehow increased. That this is not something particularly for the Shia. It's for Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein is the grandson of the Prophet. He was devoted. And we should not listen to some very, very sectarian and narrow-minded Sunni groups who say that this is for Shia, Shias are like this, and then we try to answer and somehow provoke the sectarian conflict between Shia and Sunni. So, the inclusivism of Imam Hussein alayhi salam at the time should teach us inclusivism at our time. And we have to remember the most important histories and maqtal about the incident of Karbala are written by Sunnis. The first person who collected everything was Tabari. He was a Sunni. The first people who had great gatherings for mourning Imam Hussein were Sunnis. The first book which was read on Minbar in Iran, for example, in different parts of Persia, about the incident of Karbala as Maqtal was written by Mullah Hussein al-Kashifi, who was a Sunni. The Matam of Hussein alayhi salam were held in many Sunni areas. And in recent years, it's only in recent years that because of this Wahhabi movement, this has become something, for example, very particular to Shia. We shouldn't do this because, of course, there are certain things that we stand for. Now, if someone say Muawiyah raziyallahu anh, we know that many Sunnis curse Muawiyah. Mu'tazilis cursed Muawiyah. It's not something that we cannot say that, yeah, okay, we respect that. How can we do that? We say, in Ziyarat Ashura, we say, Allahumma al'an, Abu Sufyana, wa Muawiyah. We cannot say Muawiyah raziyallahu anh. But that never has been an issue for difference, because there's always been this sort of ill feeling towards Muawiyah has always been there among all Muslims, not only among Shias. The only thing is that nowadays this Umayyad sort of feeling has grown among certain Wahhabis, and we have to be careful not to allow them to reach their agenda through us. It's very important. A group of people went to Ayatollah Sistani a couple of years ago, and one of the advice that he gave to them is that you have to isolate some of these Salafi and Wahhabi groups who try to provoke and enhance sectarianism. You have to isolate them by getting closer to other Sunni groups. Because if you get closer to other Sunni groups, the whole agenda would fail. It's very important. So this inclusivism of Imam Hussein is one very important aspect that we can use it for our today's life. The second thing is that Imam Hussein stood firm on his values, never wavered. When he was silent, he was on his values. Of course, it was not time for him to move. When he made the movement, when he came out of Mecca, Medina, going to Mecca, going to Karbala, on the way, in the battle, he never ever neglected the slightest value and precept of teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. It's very important. Nowadays, many of us, as soon as we are faced with some difficulty, we say, okay, well, this is a difficult time. So, for example, I cannot pray in front of such and such people, or I have to do taqiyya, or things like taqiyya is something different. But especially in the modern society, especially in the secular society, which has made an onslaught on all our values, we shouldn't retreat. We have to stand. We have to stand firm. No matter even if you are persecuted or prosecuted, Now, one example of this standing firm on his values, I just give you one example. When he confronted the dispatch which came with Hur, you know that Hur was dispatched with about 1,000 men before the main army to find Hussein and to arrest him, because they thought that Hussein alayhi salam had heard the news of the martyrdom of Muslim ibn Aqil and he would return. It's very interesting that they said that now that he's here, we shouldn't let him to go back. So they sent Hur to arrest him and not allowing him to go back. And this is what happened. When Imam met Hur, he said that I want to go back. If you don't want me, you send me letters. If you don't want me, I'll go back. Hur said, no, my mission is to take you to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Now, when this happened, and Hur said, I would not let you go back to Medina, Muslim ibn Awsaja or Zuhair ibn Qin, I'm hesitant now, said that, Ya ibn Rasulullah, this army is very small. There are only 1,000 men. And we are about 100. We can defeat them easily. Let us fight them now. Because if we don't fight them now, armies will come one after another from different tribes, different cities, and this is what happened. Ubaydullah had actually ordered the chiefs of every tribe and every city that you have to dispatch an army, 1,000, 2,000, 500, 3,000, and from all over Iraq, armies came until the 12th day of Muharram. Armies were still coming because they didn't know the battle is over. They were still coming from far away. So this number 30,000 which is written is not very realistic. 30,000 strong fighters were only the soldiers in Kufa. The number should have been more than 30,000, I guess, because the way Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad mobilized everyone from all different cities, all different tribes, numbers should have been more. And some people say that actually, yes, numbers were more than that, but many escaped on the way because they were forced to go out, but many didn't want to fight Hussein alayhi salam. They actually escaped on the way, and so the size of the army became smaller and smaller. So, Hur said, let us fight these people now. We can kill them, we can defeat them, and we can go back. Imam Hussein said, this is the month of Haram. It was Muharram, isn't it? I do not start fighting. I do not start the battle. It was still Zul Hajjah, of course, end of Zul Hajjah, when Hur met with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said, I do not start fighting. On the day of Ashura, Shemr somehow rode his horse towards the camp of Imam Hussein and started to shout swearings against the Imam alayhi salam, saying foul words. Again, Muslim now said that, Ya ibn Rasulullah, he is in our reach. This is the worst creature on the earth. I can kill him with one arrow. Let me do it. Now this is the Shemr who eventually killed Imam Hussein, isn't it? Let me kill him. I can shoot him with one arrow. Imam said, I don't want to start the fighting. This is standing on values. No matter what the consequences are. This is a great lesson we can learn actually from the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And we should not be intimidated. This is very important. Intimidated by the onslaught of certain values which are coming towards us. And say, oh yes, we can interpret Islam again. We can make a new interpretation of Islam to accommodate for these new values. Why? Islam has its own values and we have to protect them and preserve them. The other thing was moving out at the right time. And this is one very, very important matter again for us to learn. Muawiyah had violated all articles of peace treaty with Imam Hassan salam, even before the demise of Imam Hassan. Imam Hussein could have actually said, you have violated the peace treaty, I want to come out and fight. And he knew that he wouldn't have the power and army to fight Muawiyah, but if he wanted to become a martyr, he could have done at the time of Muawiyah, but that was not the right time. What would have happened then? They would have said, well, his brother made peace with Muawiyah, he didn't accept it, he fought against Muawiyah and he was killed. And Muawiyah was a companion of the Prophet, just like what is said was put later on. Ali fought against Muawiyah, they were both companions of the Prophet, they had their own ijtihad. No, that was not the time for him to do that. Even when Yazid was ascended as caliph, was appointed as caliph, it was not the right time to do anything because he said that all Muslims have accepted that. Muawiyah had bribed everyone. It was not the right time. The right time was when Yazid asked him, forced him to pledge allegiance to him. That was the right time. So he moved out. He went to Mecca. Even he didn't want to fight there. He went to Mecca for security. So this finding right time for our move so that we do not dissipate, we do not waste our resources, our energy is another very important matter. For that we have to be very clever, knowing the exigencies of time, knowing the exigencies of place, so that we do not just waste ourselves, waste our lives. Death, of course, to become a martyr is a very good thing, but it should be done in a manner which is worth it. And now we see the way Imam Hussein did it, he aroused the feelings of everyone. He did it. Many of you may have heard about As-Suyuti, a very prominent Sunni scholar. He has written many books in hadith, in tafsir. He was a prodigy, a real prodigy of knowledge in Islam. He has written many books, as I said, in hadith, in fiqh, in grammar, in tafsir. He has written book one in history as well. He has written one book in history as well, Tarikh al-Khulafa. And he mentions in Khilafah of Yazid ibn Muawiyah, he mentions what happened when he ascended to the throne and then what happened afterwards. And then he said that Hussein alayhi salam did not accept to pay him allegiance. And he moved out, and people of Iraq wrote him letters, and he moved there, but he was intercepted on the way by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, and a battle ensued. A battle followed that my heart does not bear to report. May Allah curse Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad wa Umar ibn Sa'd and Yazid with them. A man like Suyuti cursing the caliph shows that Hussein made the impact. He was successful. He was successful. He made the impact, and we see throughout the history how this actually moved forward. The other thing which is very important again is not seeking immediate gain, looking for long-term gain. And this is what Imam Hussein did. He looked for long-term gain. Immediately, of course, he was destroyed very easily. All his family were killed. All the Shias were silenced. Everyone attached to Imam Hussein was scared, even to talk, even to go to his ziyarah. This was the immediate after effects, the immediate aftermath. And Imam knew this. It was very clear what was going to happen. People, Banu Hashim in Medina, would become the target of persecution, as Yazid did send an army and many people were killed there, many companions of the Prophet were killed there. He knew this, but he was not doing this for immediate gain. He was looking for long-term effect of it. And you see how the ripples of this movement spread in history. Everyone, in every occasion, talking about Umayyads could not forget Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. And nowadays we see that it's spreading in a very amazing way. The whole world is now talking about Hussein alayhi salam. The other day I saw a member of the Alberto government was in the speeches before the main agenda. She started to talk about today's Arba'in, and Muslim Shias are all going to visit the shrine of Hussein ibn Ali. 25 million people have gone there peacefully. Ya Allah, is spreading. And it will spread more. And I'm sure, I promise you, in not very far away future, we will see Sunnis will join us as well in this march and this very important manifestation of the glory and dignity of the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So he did not think about the short-term gain and benefit, long-term, as all our Aimma were like this. Why Ismailis? This is, of course, our analysis about Ismaili. Yeah? Why Ismailis branched off from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq? Because they wanted immediate gains. They wanted to move very quickly, gain power for themselves. Well, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq didn't want that. He knew that it's useless. Imam al-Raza knew that it's useless, just gaining power for a short term and then everything turn against you again. No. They looked at the long-term influence of their teachings, and this is what remained there. And finally, the most important teaching that Hussein alayhi salam gives us is sacrifice, is self-devotion, is not thinking about self-interest. If we have a goal, if we have a mission, and if we want to work for that goal and mission, we have to make sacrifices. Financially, by way of even our lives, our time, our loved ones. This is something that we have to do, sacrifice. And of course, we know that Karbala was the ultimate, as everyone can see, the ultimate manifestation of sacrifice. The ultimate embodiment of sacrifice. And this is what we have to, of course, learn in our modern age, especially. As I said, we are now, as Amirul Mu'minin says, haqqun wa batilun wa likullin ahlun. There is always haqq and batil. And haqq and batil have always have their followers. It's not going to cease until the end of human existence on this earth. It's always going to be like that. And if haqq wants to make a move, it always needs sacrifices. Now, in our modern age, we see that the aggressive atheism, the aggressive secularism, not political secularism, we don't have political secularism now. We have ideological secularism, aggressive secularism, which attacks all values which have been kept dear by all religious people. Now we have to stand firm on our values. First of all, we have to somehow internalize our values and know that these are important, and then stand firm on these values. And if there is a need to make sacrifice for that, this is what we learn from Imam Hussein. Inshallah, Allah will give us tawfiq to follow his path and to make right judgments and correct decisions in our religious endeavors. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tahir.